January is always one of the hardest months to set up for, I swear, because we've spent all of our creative energy setting up our new journals for the new year, and now we also have to do a monthly setup. That's just rude. For this setup though, I decided to go with something that felt quite easy and approachable, at least for me at this current point of time. So leaning into a simpler decorative style, going with printed headers rather than doing any lettering work myself, and just very much me trying to lean into those kind of time-saving aspects, because this is definitely the busy season. So I wanted the setup to be as kind of quick and painless as possible. That being said though, I do also think that the first monthly setup in a new journal is a really fun opportunity to do some experimentation with our layouts. I knew there were things from my previous setups that I wanted to change up, stuff that I've been doing kind of like time and time again that's starting to feel a little bit stale, but I don't necessarily want to change it so completely because it still works for me. There's a reason why I was using these things over and over. I just want to make the kind of more upgraded, elevated version of them. For instance, on this layout here, we're working on my monthly dashboard, and previously, for at least the past couple of months, I've only really had 3 sections on this. So a space for my actions list for my goals, a space for any project that I want to work on during the month, and a space for any tasks that kind of fall outside of those 2 things. Next to this would usually go my monthly reflections page, which would have a couple of key areas, but I decided that I really wanted to expand on my monthly dashboard, make it more in depth, feel more robust, maybe a little bit more meaty, and that meant more sections to fill out to make me feel like my start of month is as organized as possible. Before going and putting in each of the sections though, I just wanted to put in my second line highlights. I enjoy these for adding some color to the page, also making the sections easier to read, and just for some visual interest. And in terms of knowing how many spaces to put for each of the sections, I did all of my pre-planning for this setup in a digital space first. I have a little spreadsheet that's sized to the dimensions of my notebook, so I can fully plan out what my layout is going to look like, and effectively use those plans as a map to help me with my setup. This means I don't have to pencil everything in and then erase it and then risk smudging my ink because I didn't erase the pencil first. Go on, ask me how I know that that's a thing. Anyway, once the line work was in though, then it was time to add in the headers. Now, as said, I could have gone and done the lettering myself, but I just wanted something easy. I wanted it to look nice. I also, in particular, wanted a style of lettering that's going to match the decoration I end up adding, and I thought that this style of lettering matched really well for that. I printed these ones off on washi sticker paper. The font itself is called Mosseta. I have information in the description box for any of the materials I've used, whether they be digital or physical. So if you're curious about any of those items, make sure to check down there. But I really loved this font for some of the variation in the letters, especially when you have 2 particular characters next to each other. Maybe the style of the A or the B might change. But once these were printed out on the washi sticker paper, all I had to do was cut them out with my scissors and stick them in. It is very much a goal of mine for 2025 to learn how to use my Cricut. I'm not there yet. I'm not in 2025 when I'm setting this up, so I've still got time. But it would be nice to actually use the sticker cutting machine to cut the stickers rather than cutting them myself. I'm not too sad about it. It's just a nice little piece of mindless work, so I can like listen to an audiobook or something, cut out my stickers, and then stick them in and not have to have done that lettering myself. If I was trying to do this style of lettering in my own kind of like, pen on paper kind of style, that would have taken me such a long time and would have had so many stuff ups. I would have been so frustrated. In terms of the sections that I wanted to include on this layout though, we have just a bit of an expanded version of my typical 3-box system. So we do still have the actions list, the projects, and the general tasks. But to go along with this, I also wanted a space to outline what my goals were for the month. So what do I actually want to work on? And as part of this, I also wanted to consider any focus routines that I wanted to build. A lot of the time, our goals will have these like repeated things that we want to do either daily or weekly. So I wanted a space to outline what those things would be so that I make sure I add them into my weekly routine trackers. We also have a space to outline my life admin RPG aims. If you haven't seen it, I'm doing a kind of life admin RPG system or life gamification for next year, just to help me incentivize myself to do things outside of the realm of work, because I'm very good at working and very good at neglecting other areas of my life. Other sections I have though are mainly focused on what's coming up in January. So we have a coming up section, a space to outline the things I'm excited about, a space to outline the things I'm nervous about. We have a space called Watch Out, and that's mainly because it would have been possible challenges, but the writing of possible challenges was just going to be a little bit too wide to fit in that space. I do think it's a little bit amusing. It's like my journal is threatening me almost. It's fine, I might have to tweak the wording in future months, but for now, Watch Out is okay. And then the other spaces I have are for holidays that I want to celebrate, mainly the novel ones like Bacon Day and stuff like that. 52 in 52, which is where I'm going to be putting things from my 52 in 52 list, so just some focus things that I can get done in the month. And then also a space to outline any tactics that I want to try, mainly in terms of productivity and goals. I'm really excited about this expanded version of my monthly dashboard. I think it'll help me just feel a little bit more cool, calm, and collected going into January, like having specifically called out the things that are coming up, noting down the things that I'm excited for happening or doing. And while I don't fill it in during this video, we are going to have a proper migration video on the channel coming up probably within the next week, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. Before we get into the next layout though, let's look back and see how December was going. Normally I find that when I'm in a busy season, I kind of neglect my journal, and I feel like this has been one of the first times where that hasn't happened. I've actually been quite good about using my layouts, even though it's not so much the monthly setups, those ones are still getting a tad neglected, but I've been really relying on my dailies and my little weekly boxes and such to get the things done that I need to get done. 2024 has definitely been the year where I've embraced daily planning, and I don't foresee that stopping for 2025. It's just been a fun and flexible style that I can put little pieces of decoration in amongst and don't have to have everything fully scaffolded out at the start of the week, which I very much appreciated. In terms of the decoration that I did use in December, I really loved the stencil work with the ink, and while the washi stickers did make for easy decoration, they're not necessarily my favorite. Like, of all of the Christmas tapes that I've used before, I do have other styles and palettes that have been my preference, but as said, given the fact that it's the busy season, having the ease of just being able to slap a sticker down onto the page and have it look a little bit decorated has been quite nice. I do still have a couple more pages that just have the stencil work done, because we're not quite at the end of December yet. I still have more things I'm gonna have to be recording, but jumping back over into the new journal, here we're setting up my monthly log for January. Now, I call it a monthly log. I technically don't do monthly planning anymore, it is cyclic planning, or blocks of 28 days. So if you're looking at my calendar thinking, Jess, you don't have enough space on there, just know it's because I'm not actually doing the full 31-day month that most people do. I experimented with planning in 4-block weeks for the entire of 2024 and found that it was just so super helpful for holding me accountable to getting things done, being able to note the passage of time in a way that just felt better in my brain, kind of combat some of my time blindness, and so I'm also taking that forward into 2025 as well. We have a separate video on the channel about how that system works, and it's been really great to hear from other people who have also brought it into their own systems and shared how they're using it. In terms of the structure of the page though, it is effectively just a typical calendar, just with slightly less days. This one makes a very nice box layout, where I put 4 days on the left-hand page and 3 days on the right. The reason that I go with this arrangement is because I'm right-handed, so when it comes to actually putting things into this calendar, it's a lot easier if I have something to rest my hand on. If those boxes butted up all the way across to the right-hand edge of the page, my hand would kind of have to hover awkwardly in the air because I wouldn't have any more journal to rest my arm on. By aligning that calendar to the left though, it means that I have a side panel down the right hand side of the layout that my hand can rest on if I want to go and add anything to those right hand boxes. Doing it in this arrangement also means that I have some built-in space for decoration, so I can use more of that PET tape that I used in the first layout. I'll be using that through all of the pages of the setup. I like that by using this same decorative piece from the same roll of tape, it just makes all of the pages look more cohesive. This can also be achieved by using the same style of lettering to do the date covers for Monday through Sunday, and also using a consistent color palette throughout. Now on the first page I only had the brown Tombow, which is 990, my favourite of the pale brown pens, but on this one I wanted the header row of each of my daily boxes to stand out a little bit more. To do that I just picked out a pink and a green Tombow that matched as well to the colour palette that I could get it, while still remaining quite soft so that I could write over the top of it with black and still have that show up. The ones that I went with were 761 for the pink and 192 for the green, though I do think I probably could have made a better choice with the green, but I still like the way the palette came together. Flipping on over though, on this next page I'm not just gonna have brown, I'm gonna have all 3 colors for my color palette, and that's because this one is what I'm calling my life admin point tracker. Effectively, the style of the page is like a productivity tracker, which I have had in my journal previously, where you just have a series of little boxes for each of the days in the month, and you fill them in with either a little icon or a color or a symbol to indicate the productive tasks you are doing. Now, as mentioned, in 2025, I'm going with a life admin gamification system, kind of just to incentivize me to do things that aren't my work. So taking care of my house, connecting with other people, taking care of my health, and also just bringing more fun and leisure into my routines. As a way to indicate the work that I'm doing in these areas, I wanted this tracker to be like a visual reminder of the stuff I've been able to accomplish, while also keeping track of the points that I'm earning to level up my character. This system is a little bit hard to explain in just like the small segment that we have here for setting up the layout, so we do have a separate video on the channel, but the long story short of it is effectively I've gone through each of my life areas that aren't work and noted down the tasks that I want to be doing more of. These could be things that I do on a daily basis, a weekly basis, whatever else, stuff that I would typically neglect and not do, and I want to use points as a way to incentivize myself to get them done. Each of these different tasks have been assigned a point value of either 1 point, 3 points, or 5 points, and then as I complete the tasks, I earn those points both towards my character leveling up and also towards the particular life area that those tasks fall under. So for instance, if I exercise for a certain amount of time, I will earn a certain amount of points towards my character and also in my physical health life area. And then as I hit certain point values, I can earn rewards. At this stage, I have not fully decided what my rewards are going to be, but I want them to be the kind of things that are actually related to the life area in question. So for instance, maybe as I level up in my physical health category, I could earn things like new sneaker laces for a lower level, maybe some meal prep containers, maybe I'll get a walking pad for my office. Just depends on what level I'm hitting, how many points that's worth, that kind of a thing. And while I am going to be keeping track of the majority of that information in a spreadsheet, because then it'll calculate everything for me and add it up, I also wanted a fun visual representation in my journal as well. Because I always love the way that these layouts look when they are filled in, it's just another way to incentivize me to do these tasks. I haven't decided at this stage if I want to use different symbols or icons for each of the tasks, or if I just want to maybe assign them letters or something like that. I don't want it to be too hard to fill in, but at least I only have a 3 color code system, which are already going to be the pens that I'm using for the month, so I don't have to keep additional supplies out to fill in this page. As said though, if you wanted more information about the Life Admin RPG system or gamification for getting stuff done, then that's also a video we have linked in the description box. I don't like saying that the video is linked in the description box this many times in a video because it literally just feels like giving you homework. I'm not trying to give you homework, it's just if you're interested, that's where you can find it. Flipping over though, and the next layout we're setting up is one that I've been including in my journal a lot recently, and that is a monthly bingo board. Now you may have heard this be called a self-care bingo or something similar to that. I'm just calling it my January bingo board because yes, technically these could be considered self-care items, but I'm thinking of it more as kind of like a monthly bucket list. Not that I intend to kick the bucket before the end of the month, shouldn't be sending that juju out into the world, but essentially just a series of 9 things that I want to get done. Setting the bingo board up itself was quite easy because I just typed it into a table in Microsoft Word. That meant that I could still use the same lettering that I've used in the rest of the setup. And the nice part about this being on the washi sticker paper is that I can see the dot grid underneath to get it perfectly lined up. The rest of that layout is really just decoration, and I kind of continued the decoration along the bottom onto the right hand page. That one is going to be my work outputs layout, which we'll be setting up next. But thinking of things that I wanted to put on my January bingo, it's always kind of hard to do that when you're in the middle of December. But some of the things I have here are stuff like writing a letter to future me. This is something that I always like to do at the start of January to open at the end of December that year. I want to celebrate a novel holiday, so that could be something like Bacon Day, it could be Bubble Bath Day, that one in particular I'm hoping to celebrate. I want to have a day or at least an afternoon where I work outside of the house. So in particular, I'm thinking going to like a coffee shop and maybe doing some scripting for a video there. Maybe taking my journaling supplies, setting up some layouts or something. I'm not too sure what it's going to look like, but it would be nice to get out of my home space, because oftentimes I don't. When you work for yourself and you work at home, you very quickly become a homebody. As these things get completed though, I'll just colour in the box using either the pink or the brown pen, because I'm using the green to do the outline or border around the bingo board. I don't set up any rewards for doing these things, like for instance getting a full line, whether that be like horizontal, diagonal, vertical. I really just use this as a way to organise the information rather than actually make it a bingo style game. But if you were populating this list with stuff that's not so fun, things that won't necessarily feel immediately rewarding just getting them done by themselves, then adding a reward system in could be a good way to incentivize yourself. Up next though, we have my work outputs layout, which is just a way to summarize all of the pieces of content that I'm either putting out on the channel, the perks that we've got for our memberships, the newsletters that I send out weekly, and also the work that I'm doing over at Epic Goals. Each of these just gets their own section, which is set up using the Alistair method, so having some highlighted columns down the right hand side of each of those spaces to indicate the different stages for working on each of those pieces of content. Depending on the section, the number of columns change, and also what those columns are for. So for instance, in the memberships box, we have a space for the idea generation, a space for writing out anything that I need for the post, and then a space for actually having it posted. A lot of these I like to schedule ahead so that they come out at an appropriate time for our members. And also just a shout out to our channel members, because we recently passed 350 in the team with a capital T, and I always have a lot of fun making the perks for you guys each month. If you wanted to know more about our membership or the team with a capital T, then that one is also linked in the description box below. As for the other sections though, videos has 5 columns, so idea generation, prepping my journaling materials, filming, editing, and posting, and then newsletter writing also has 5 as well. Idea generation, draft writing, checking, titling, and scheduling. This page is really just a way to help me see at a glance all of the work outputs that I still have to do for any given month, and acts as a really nice summary of the stuff that I'm working on. I also like how it only takes up 1 page now. Previously, my work outputs either took up a spread or a series of spreads, because I just have the information structured in a different way, so I appreciate this layout for being more condensed. On to our next spread though. One of the layout types that I've been missing for the past 2 months are pages specifically dedicated to different projects. This is something that I started to introduce into my journal in July, and I found them really helpful for July through to October, but then for November and December, my main project was Vlogmas, and the information for that mainly got stored in a different place. For January though, we are bringing back the project planning pages, and the 2 main projects that I'm going to be working on are our layout library. This one's a perk for the team with a capital T. It effectively just has still images of all of the different layouts that I share on the channel, but given the number of layout ideas I share, or have shared so far, that means there are quite a few photos that I need to take and organize and upload. That is effectively what I'm going to be using that left-hand page to organize, and then on the right-hand page, we have a space that I'm just calling Setup for 2025. This one has 4 main sections. So PKM being personal knowledge management and setting up a digital personal knowledge management system. We have the 2025 budget, so just a place for me to record all of our spending and income and stuff like that, just to keep track of our finances. We have a space for a reading document. This one would have been titled Reading Spreadsheet, but that title was a little bit too long to fit into the space that I had. And then also one called Digital Space, which could have been called Digital Declutter, because that is going to be the main purpose of it. The structure of these sections is really just going to be like a checklist, so writing out the tasks that have to be done for each of the areas, whereas the layout library is again set up using the Alistair method, so having those 3 columns along the right hand side for taking the picture, editing the picture, like making the color look more like a true representation rather than whatever my camera spits out, and then having that uploaded to the premium resource library. I have a lot of space on there. I haven't actually written a list of all of the different layout groupings that I need to record, so I hope this is enough space. I'm not really too sure. And then in terms of scaffolding out the spaces for the things in the setup for 2025 layout, this was just really an educated guess of how many tasks I might have for each of those projects. I do love having these project planning layouts in my journal though. It just really helps me organize all of the different tasks or information that I have for any given project. And I also appreciate that the structure of these will change depending on what type of project I'm working on. So for instance, the layout library one using the Alistair method, that's a whole series of repeated tasks for each of the different topics that I'm taking photos for, whereas the stuff on the right hand side, all of those really just needed checklists. I know these are just going to be really helpful for getting these things done in January, and I'm very eager to get into it, populate these so I can hit the ground running next month. Flipping over to the next spread though, this one isn't actually going to be used until the end of the month because this is a space for my January reflection. Previously, I'd been setting up my reflection page for the month at the start of the setup, so having that next to my monthly dashboard. And while I did like this structure, I felt that I just wanted to include some more sections in my monthly reflection, so it wasn't really suitable to only have it on one page anymore. Realistically, it needed its own spread. The sections that are remaining the same from what I've been previously doing over the past 5-6 months are having a space to write out my goals, having a space to write out my memories from the month, a place to list out any accomplishments or wins, a spot to note down any challenges that I faced, and also a designated section for any lessons that I learned about myself as a goal getter or getting things done in a more productive way. What I also wanted to add in though was a space to write down any other projects I've been working on, mainly because these are also taking up my time, effort, and energy, and I want to be able to see those alongside the goals that I set for myself initially. We also have spaces for a finance review, so thinking about money in, money out, did I spend more or less than the previous month, a space for the life admin RPG and considering what levels I got to in each of my different life areas, a space that I'm calling tactic review where I can reflect on the tactics that I selected to try and build into my routines for the month and whether those were actually helpful or I didn't find them all that useful, or I suppose whether I actually successfully implemented them or not. And then at the bottom of the right hand page we have two sections called taking forward and leaving behind. This is essentially anything that I want to bring forward with me when moving into the next month, whether that be mindsets, layouts, tactics, routines, anything like that. And then the opposite and the stuff that I do not want to bring with me, the things that haven't been serving me, maybe they've hindered my progress on my goals, and we can just leave them in January. I'm really looking forward to using this expanded version of my month in review, and while technically speaking it would be nice to have this reflection space at the very end of the month, like after any weekly or daily lists that I put in, I don't want to try and either 1, predict how much space I will need for those and probably inevitably fail on that prediction, and 2, I also like having this available to write in from the get-go, so as these memory making moments come up I can just jot them down in here rather than actually trying to rely on my memory and fill them all in at the end of the month. With that one set up though, it's time to flip back so that we can flip through. I really like how this came together. As mentioned, I am feeling like a little bit of creative burnout with the amount of setups that I've been doing across the past month and a half. So when it came to my January setup, I was feeling just a tad uninspired, but I think that just powering back using the simple lettering style and the PET tape and putting those in combination with a simple color palette, I think the layouts have come together fairly well. I am so looking forward to using either my expanded layouts or the ones that are kind of new to me, like the Life Admin Point Tracker, even though technically that style of layout is one that I've used before, but the Life Admin RPG system in general I am just so excited about. If you wanted to see more about how that system is going to work and how I'll be utilizing it to get more done in 2025, then the video at the top is the next one to check out. But if you are still on the hunt for January inspiration, then you can check out all of my previous January setups in the playlist at the bottom. Click or tap on either of those and I'll see you over there.